hello, and welcome everyone to our live today. My name is Jessica Farmer, and we're here with Heather Wells of Brain Balance of Katy, Mansfield, and Woodsland. She is the executive director. She is a licensed therapist, board certified cognitive specialist, and National Autism Summit speaker. And I am so excited for today's topic, how to transform from victim mentality to accountability. So I'm so excited to get started.
I am too. Jessica, since this is your first show with us, would you mind taking a minute and just kind of telling everyone a little bit about yourself? You have an incredible background.
Oh, thank you. So I was a classroom teacher for 13 years in the primary classroom. I taught all subjects, and I really dove into reading instruction and learning a lot about the science of reading. And that is what I do now. I do professional development for pre-K teachers, and I do a lot of video on my social media about how to support struggling readers.
That is so great. We're really fortunate to have you with us. So you said you were really excited about today's topic. Did you see this with your students? Did you kind of run into these issues?
Little bit. I mean, my kids were little, but you would see little bits of that. But I have children of my own. I have a 4-year-old and I have a now 10-year-old. And I see some of this with my 10-year-old. He's starting to have his crowd of friends and oh, no one wants to hang out with me, and the world's against me, and gets kind of these mood swings already. So I was like, I got to learn more about this.
Yes. Well, there are a lot of things that get in the way. This can be a struggle for anyone, and even more so for those with neurodevelopmental struggles. And Bess will go ahead and pull up our first slide. And this definitely is not all of the things that cause it, but here is a sampling. One is, you've heard me talk before. I've done 2 shows in the past about why do my kids lie. A lot of our kids with neurodevelopmental struggles go into the fight or flight response even when there is not physical threat present. And when we are in a fight or flight response, that is designed to keep us safe. If somebody's trying to attack us, we can think fast, we get stronger and faster, get to safety. Well, if I go into the fight or flight and there's no real threat present, I am still in self-preservation mode. And sometimes kids will blame others. They'll get more annoyed, frustrated with other people. And it looks like a lack of responsibility when really it is self-preservation. If I admit that I did this thing, I'm going to get in trouble. And it is safety first. So I'm going to deny, or I'm going to say I did something that I didn't do, or it's your fault. I didn't do it. I was waiting for you to help me. It's anybody's fault but mine. And so we have to get to the root cause of why they're going into the fight or flight response. There is a startle reflex that can be present that is not supposed to be there, a primitive reflex, emotional dysregulation in general that can put them in a heightened state. And then my emotional brain's in charge of my actions or my inaction, instead of my logical brain. And that really goes into low response inhibition, which we'll talk about in a second. But first of all, we have to set our kids up for success. If you already know that your kids struggle with stretching the truth, telling lies, whatever you want to call it, a good idea, if this is coming from neurodevelopmental struggle, instead of asking them, did you do your homework, check it. If you already know that they always say they did it and they didn't, we don't want to create a battle that doesn't have to be there, right? Or if you do ask them a question and they lie, this was my boys. I'd be like, clean your room. And then at special family night, and they'd be gone. It was a tornado. They'd come back and it's 2 seconds later. It's all clean. There's no way. I said, are you sure? I want to give you time to rethink your answer. You won't get in trouble if you change your answer, but I'm going to know the truth in a couple of minutes. So do you want to go double check? Do you want to think about your answer again before you answer? No, sometimes even that doesn't work. But when we give kids, say, you will not get in trouble if you want to rethink your answer, sometimes they impulsively answer. That is neurodevelopment. And we are giving them a pause button so they can rethink it. There's not even going to be consequences if I tell the truth. So now I learned that telling the truth feels good. We are taking away the neurodevelopmental thing that's getting in the way. It doesn't mean there's never any consequences for anything they do. But we're talking about when they, to a large degree, really can't help it. Their emotional brain is answering, not their logical brain. But response inhibition, this is impulse control. This is one of our top tier CEO functions of the brain. And the way you can know if your kids have struggle with response inhibition is if they are emotionally reactive, they interrupt others, they make careless errors on assignments, they engage in risky behavior, they don't stop and think about the consequences before they say or do something. It is having a brake pedal. It's important to know that it takes about 6 seconds for us to get from our logical brain, from our automatic thoughts to our logical brain, where we can make good decisions and be responsible and be accountable. And so if your kids are getting heightened, try to get them to do something for 6 seconds. I mean, do their multiplications by 6, name state capitals, anything that involves just 100% logical fact figure. 6 seconds later, I've had time to come down from that emotion and I can respond more logically. And you can make it really fun games. But I did an entire impulse control show just a few weeks ago that you can check. Go to the More tab, and there will be a down that tab. You'll see videos, and put in impulsivity, and you will see a show with tons of recommendations for how to grow impulse control. You can do it when you're playing cars, doing the cars different speeds. Go, 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 fast, fast, fast. Medium speed, slow. Simon Says, because they have to pause and think, did Simon say it before they do the thing? There's so many games I gave you as fun ways to work on that. Poor emotional intelligence. I just don't get it. I'm not even in touch with my emotions. How on earth am I supposed to think about how my actions impact someone else? So one of the best ways, as a teacher, I'm sure that you have worked on growing social emotional skills through stories. Something that's beautiful about doing this, you're growing literacy at the same time, but also a lot of times kids are more open-minded to the lessons you're wanting to teach them because it is one person removed. It's not personal. I don't feel defensive because we are talking about the characters in the book. That's not as threatening. But you want to do dialogic reading, dialogue. You're talking about the book as you go. Wow, have you ever faced anything like that? How do you think Jimmy is feeling in this story? How would you feel? What do you think about how he handled this situation? Would you do anything differently? Why or why not? And you are growing. It's like dress rehearsal for when they face the real deal. And the defensiveness is down. Do you have any favorite? I love freespirit.com. I love their social emotional books. And they have them by categories from the littles, from the toddlers, all the way up through the teens. And the books themselves are fantastic. But also those books have activities to really drive the point home, really fun things to work on. Do you have any favorite sources for social emotional books?
There is a website called The Emotional ABCs. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I'm not sure if parents can get a free account. I know teachers can get a free account, and I always loved that website for teaching about emotions. And there's a book with a rabbit in it, and I forget what it's called, but they have a whole website. If I think of it, I will let you know. But I used to use that book all the time because the rabbit would go through different situations and then we'd talk about it in the classroom. So I think using books are a fabulous way to have those discussions.
Yes. And I did a show a few weeks ago with a ton of book recommendations and gave a lot of tips about how to grow social emotional skills through the ages, through literacy. And gave a lot of books where the star characters are neurodiverse individuals. So many good lessons in there if you want to go back and check that out. But growing granularity, one of the most powerful things we can do, what gets in the way of emotional regulation? One, I have to have a brake pedal so I can get from my emotions to my logical brain. I have to be able to put on my wide angle lens and think about things from different perspectives. It gives me, you know what, in the big scheme of things, it's not that big a deal. We don't want to tell our kids that, but they learn to tell themselves that. But granularity is the other part of this. We all know that we can be mad, happy, sad, uncertain, any emotion under the sun. And all of those occur on a broad scale. What happens with a lot of our neurodiverse kiddos is they only conceptualize emotions very all or nothing, very large. If like even excitement could be to the nth degree, like that's cool, but it's not like turning cartwheels and I want to, bounce off the ceiling for 10 hours. Likewise, mad doesn't have to mean infuriated. Uncertain doesn't have to mean anxious. So we never want to tell kids that's not what you're feeling. If they say, I'm so furious right now, you're going to say, I can tell you're really bothered right now. Do you think you're actually infuriated or maybe you're frustrated or disappointed, and talk about what those words mean and the differences. One time I faced something like that, and at first I thought I was just furious. And then when I stopped to think about it, I was just disappointed that my friend made that choice. And what happens is when we grow emotions vocabulary, it's not just about growing vocabulary. Kids start understanding cognitively the shades and degrees of emotions, and they start identifying, oh, hold up, I'm not mad. That whole frustrated thing, that's what I'm feeling right now. And on a scale of 0 to 10, that's a 3 or 4, not an 8, 9, 10. It is so much easier to de-escalate from that than from an 8, 9, 10. And when I start having that perspective, some of the things where everybody's out to get me, we're also growing granularity that good things happen, rough things happen today. What's the sum total of it? One of the best things you can do for kids, aside from just emotions, is make it a daily practice. Let's rate our day on a scale of 1 to 5 and talk about what all those numbers represent. You rate your day, explain why, and have them rate their day. And you want to probably most of the time try to stay away from 1s and 5s and talk about the good things that happen. I was late to my appointment, and then they said they had to reschedule. I was a little frustrated. Just go through it. It's not the end of the world. They start learning how to think about their thinking. You are growing, it's called metacognition. Rate your day. How non-threatening, good thing to do around the dinner table. Black and white, all or nothing thinking. A lot of our kids have a telescopic view on the one thing that's not to their liking, the one person who didn't treat them well, that kind of thing. We have got to grow big picture skills. Again, you can do this through literacy, looking at the themes and the main ideas of stories, teaching them inferencing, reading between the lines. You can even do this with pictures. Let's say there's a picture of a little boy walking a dog, and you see some moisture outside. What's happening in that picture? Well, it's raining. He's walking his dog. Do we know that we don't tell them we're wrong? We can talk about inferencing as guessing, which again is non-threatening. Do we know that it's been raining? What else could make the sidewalk wet like that? You could talk about, somebody's washing their car, they're watering the grass, a busted pipe. Do we know that's his dog? It could be the neighbor's dog. He could be a dog walker to earn a little extra money. But they start learning everything is not always, you can't just judge a book by its cover. And then they also can start understanding that I thought that comment was directed toward me, but actually it wasn't, But if forest for the trees, if you have kids who you tell them that you're going to do this at 5 o'clock and it's 5:07 and they think you've lied to them because we didn't do it at 5 o'clock, that is an example of all or nothing black and white thinking, or if you were my boys, I was trying to teach them about flexibility, and you don't always get your way. You got to roll with it sometimes. And they said, Mama, that boy's shirt wasn't yellow, it was orange. Forest trees, hello, we got to work on that. So if your kids can answer questions about a story, about all the baseball stats, they know who did it, what happened, what year it happened, but they don't know the story was about sportsmanship, that is a big picture challenge that we want to work on. You can do this through role play. I love a quote of the week for families. And one of the beauties of that is, you're growing social emotional skills, communication skills, emotional intelligence. They're also learning that everyone in the family talks about what the quote means to them. And people might have different takeaways, and it doesn't mean that person's right and this person's wrong. Wow, 2 people can disagree and neither one is right or wrong, or there is no right or wrong. And talking about opinion versus fact, all kinds of things like that can help. But I also did a show on cognitive flexibility, what gets in the way and ways to grow cognitive flexibility that you can check out. Okay, let's move on. And by the way, another thing that can get in the way of taking responsibility, as Beth moves to the next slide, is I am just flat out on empty. A lot of our kids, I put up a quote last week. It got shared so many times. I said, saying this one thing could change everything. I know you are not being lazy or difficult. You only have so much mental and emotional energy, and right now you're using it all just to get through each day. I'm sorry things are tough right now. We're going to figure this out together. Sometimes kids are churning to do routine tasks that we take for granted. They get up to I am all filled up. I am at the max capacity of my cognitive load. I have nothing left to give this. So now I'm going to opt out, and that can look like lack of responsibility. So why are they working so hard? It is not just about the grade. It's not just about their MVP on the team. A lot of times kids can finally accomplish something but they used 100 gallons of gas, whereas someone else used 2 gallons. They don't have, it robs out of another bucket, something to keep in mind. That is why my page is called The Hidden Churn. We have to look underneath the hood. Hi, Rachel. I usually ask Brooks and Layla, tell me something that made you feel, I love this, sad, excited, loved, etc. today. I'm totally going to start using the daily rating. Thank you. If you are in the Fort Worth area, there is a licensed professional counselor for her. She has her own practice. She is one of my dearest friends. I love, 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 love her. We work together in early childhood intervention, one of my favorite human beings on the planet. Thank you for sharing that, Rachel. Another good point that she's making is sometimes you get really vague answers when you have, you don't just want to say, how was your day? What kind of answer are you going to get? Fine. I don't know. Whatever. It's good. All right. I mean, they even stop moving their mouths. Is I, you know, you're in trouble. We want to ask open-ended questions, just like Rachel's examples. What made you feel? That's not a yes or no answer, but we want it to be targeted, because if you ask me how my day was, holy cow, I don't even know where to begin. That's overwhelming. So I just shut down and I don't say anything. But if we say, what was the funniest thing that happened today? What did you do at recess? You know, and then I love the thing about, and she's not just talking about happy, sad, mad. She's talking about excited, loved, more nuanced layers of emotions. Now it's still open-ended, but you're also targeting it so that it doesn't feel overwhelming. And by the way, another tip on getting real answers is the timing matters. Are they hungry? Do they need a snack? Are they just done and they need a little settling time? You might be really excited to hear about their day, but maybe they need a minute. And maybe transitions are hard and they got to get settled before you can have really deep conversations. Sometimes for tweens and teens, car rides are excellent. And kind of counterintuitively, sometimes tweens and teens will open up to you more when there is not eye contact. I need to tell you something heavy and your eyes are on the road so it doesn't feel as intimidating that we're eye to eye right now. Tip. Okay. All right. Here's another thing that really gets in the way of a victim mentality. Do your kids ever say, it's not fair?
Oh, yes, all the time.
All right. This is a biggie. And there are so many causes of this. When our kids say this, you can see what this dad is thinking. My best isn't good enough. It doesn't cut it. I'm not doing enough. I'm not making things fair. Wow. Am I doing more for this child than this child? We start second guessing ourselves. It can bring out perfectionistic tendencies. We're doing the best we can. Hashtag done is better than perfect. You're good. Your best is good enough. And sometimes it's okay to not have your best to give, by the way. Self-care. I'm raising a selfish, spoiled, entitled child who doesn't appreciate what I do. That's the other part of it. Can be, what am I doing wrong as a parent? The other part is they're selfish and entitled. Maybe. And if they are kind of just sitting back eating bonbons that you're delivering to them, on a feather, we don't want to rethink that. But most of the time, there's some other things getting in the way. One thing we do not want to do when kids say this is, well, life's not fair. And I know you're probably like, what? Is life fair? Not necessarily. Is this the truth? Yes. But what's the problem with this? When we tell kids that life's not fair, we're saying, I don't care that you're feeling rough right now. I'm taking away your voice. And it's kind of the same as saying, too bad, I don't care, even though that's not the intent. So we also don't want to argue their experience. There was nothing unfair about that. I need to be heard. I need to share my emotions, and then you can guide me through it, okay? Instead, I love the 5 whys. This can get you specific answers as well as really digging to what's going on underneath. So, for example, if today was awful. Why was it awful? What made it awful? I don't know, just everything. We don't accept I don't know as an answer on stuff like this. So what do you think it was? Why do you think you feel that way? And then by the time you ask why and what 5 times, you usually are to the real deal. But understanding that usually when kids say it's not fair, there are unhealthy beliefs, underlying hurts, or distorted perceptions in the way. By asking these 5 whys, you can get to the root cause of the comment and address it instead of just putting a Band-Aid on the symptom of it's not fair. Teach kids to problem solve the parts they can control. If you follow my pages, you have seen me put up like these bubbles of things I can control and things I can't control. I cannot control other people's actions, decisions, words, attitudes. I can control my effort, my thoughts, my attitude, my emotions, my choices, my friend, who I choose to be a friend with, and then teach kids, brainstorm with them. We want kids to problem solve on their own to the extent they can. As early as age 3, we are growing problem solving skills. And a good way to get it going at that young age is to say, show me the hard part, and then kind of go from there. But then as we get older, what can you control that? What can you control? This is very empowering. Even having them draw a picture, drawing can be very cathartic anyway, but having them draw a picture of what they can and can't control can be very helpful as well. And I've done entire shows on problem solving, so I won't do a deep dive on that. But why do kids say this? Misunderstanding sameness versus fairness is a huge one. So for example, this little girl's mad because her brother got a guitar and she didn't. She doesn't even want to take guitar lessons, by the way. Okay. Is that the same? No. Is it fair? Yes, because she got a flute. She's taking flute lessons. Her brother didn't get one. She gets a new pair of shoes when her feet outgrow. So talk about my responsibility as a parent is to make sure everyone has what they need. You don't need new shoes right now. Calvin does, because his feet don't fit in his shoes anymore. When your feet don't fit in your shoes anymore, you'll get new shoes too. Has there been a time you needed new shoes and you didn't get any? So sameness versus fairness, understanding what that means. And it's about individuals getting what they need, and everyone gets what they need. And that is fairness. It is not sameness. Mm-hmm. Sometimes kids say it's not fair because they are lacking emotions words to pinpoint what they're feeling. I am so frustrated right now. I don't really know how to use that word. I've heard it. I don't really get it. So it's not fair. I'm frustrated about what's happening. So going back to what we were saying about growing granularity, by always working on giving kids at least 3 more words for emotions in the realm of what they think they're feeling, and talking about what they mean and how to use them and pointing them out in stories, you are growing their emotions vocabulary. Sometimes it's simply a replacement because I don't know the right words to target what I'm saying. And like we said, missing the big picture. I think it's not fair because I don't get that in the big scheme of things. Oh yeah, over here this did happen. What I was just describing about they can't take a step back. Oh yeah, 2 months ago I got new shoes and he didn't. Parental guilt works. Y'all don't let it work. That's the one reason people do it. You're thinking, I'm not doing enough. I'm not making things fair. I'm doing my best and it's not cutting it. You want to empathize. You want to hear them out, give them a voice, grow their emotions vocabulary, grow their big picture skills, help them understand sameness versus fairness, but not give in, because then they're going to keep doing it. And sometimes a trivial circumstance, it's not fair that Betty asked Sherry to come over for sleepover and not me. That it's a trivial circumstance, but actually there's something deeper going on. I've been feeling rejected by her in general lately. And so pay attention to what they're saying that about. Is there something deeper going on? Are they being bullied at school? And we're talking about victim mentality. There are kids that get victimized. We are not talking about negating that. We're talking about them not always thinking everyone's out to get them and life is always awful. Okay, so just know that sometimes, y'all know, think about a fight with your spouse. How often is the fight not at all about what the words are? You've been ignoring me lately. You've been golfing too much. So now I'm going to blow up at you because you didn't take the trash out. I mean, it's actually, I'm not feeling valued right now. Right. You know, taking the trash out is important, but it's not just about the trash. It's because I'm also not feeling valued because you're not making time for me. It's the same thing goes with kids and them feeling that life is out to get them. Okay, let's move on. Okay, one of the things that we may think of when we're growing accountability is if kids are going to take ownership, they need to apologize when they do wrong. Forced apologies do not work. Why? We are unintentionally, tell them you're sorry, or what do you say? Sometimes there's a manner involved, and sometimes as parents, we can be concerned about what other people think, and I don't want to be called a bad parent, so I want them to see that my kids have manners. But if I force my child, you know what's best for your child, and it's easier said than done, but trying not to let other people's judgment get in the way of doing That's never the intent. But doing what's best for kids, and we may not realize, if we tell kids to say they're sorry, I don't actually feel sorry. So you're actually telling me to lie. So if I'm supposed to, how do I know when it's okay to tell an untruth and when it's not? You're teaching me insincerity. I thought I was supposed to be my authentic self. This isn't authentic. I don't feel heard because I'm not sorry, and you're making me say I am. So I'm also being devalued. This can grow so much resentment, and we are not teaching kids to figure out what they did wrong and how to make things better. We are not growing self-reflection, right? And social emotional intelligence. So what do we want to do instead? We want to teach relationship repair. And when we do this, what's going to happen is the genuine apology comes. And there's more ways to say, I'm sorry than those two words. There's some even more powerful ways. How many times have you had somebody say, I'm sorry, but then nothing changed? And they're not really sorry. That was just words. These are going to be genuine apologies and genuine repair. So first, we want to reframe the situation. Help your child or teen see the facts of the conflict from all points of view. Tell me what happened. They're telling you your point of view. Well, what do you think Jason would tell me if I asked him that? If they cannot come up with the answer, you can tell them what you observed, but you always want them to fill in the blanks on the level they can. So right now, a lot of times they're going to struggle to see something from somebody else's point of view, perhaps, but right now we are on the concrete stuff. These are the facts of the case, Judge. Okay, you're going to approach it that way. We're just laying out the facts right now. This is non-threatening. You want to make sure you're calm. If you need settling time, you did not just do that to your little sister. If you need settling time before you do this, go for it. It'll land much better. Next, empathy. We want to teach empathy. If they are, how do you think Jason felt when you pushed him out of the way so you could be first? If he can't come up with the answer, I could see that he felt really dejected because his posture changed. He looked down to the ground and his eyebrows swooped, and his little lips were quivering, and he was holding back tears. I am very concretely telling you nonverbal cues that Jason gave that let me really infer how he's feeling. So now that you can start learning to grow those things. Now, if kids have low body awareness, it's part of our sensory system, this can be tough. A lot of kids can memorize a script of happy, sad, mad. There are so many more nuances of ways we communicate that they may miss. But they can learn by you verbalizing it for them. And then we also need to grow their body awareness. But show them and practice. Look at when you're reading stories, looking at pictures, things that are less nuanced. Why do you think her hand is on the hip? Not just the happy, sad. Our kids live in emoji world. They can spot the big ones. But sometimes in the moment, when I'm talking to you and trying to listen to your words and pick up on all those cues, something falls off the shelf. Taking ownership. Guide them to answer how and why they acted as they did. So what did you do? And why do you think you did that? I pushed him out of the way. Why'd you do that? I wanted to be first. I like being first in line. Now I'm starting to, I'm thinking about my thinking. I'm thinking about my behaviors. We're growing self-awareness. The more I understand myself, the more I'm going to understand others as well. Now, repair. We want to repair the damage and repair the relationship. So brainstorm together. What do you think you could do to make the situation better? And encourage them to ask the person with whom they have the conflict. And now tying all these pieces together, help them put it together. I see that you feel upset. I acted impulsively and I pushed you because I was in a hurry or because I wanted to be first, whatever the situation is. They're taking ownership. They're empathizing with my actions. Had to do with you. We also want kids to know we are never responsible. We're responsible for our emotions and what we do with them, not someone else's. But there is a cause and effect, consequences stuff. Our actions have an impact on others. I want to make the situation better. What will help? And and you can even talk to them about doing something nice where writing them a card or drawing a picture about why you love being their friend so much. Okay. Mm-hmm. So, and then future plan. This is growth mindset. One of the reasons kids don't take responsibility is a fear of failure. If I try and fall short, then I'm a failure. They think they're a human doing, not a human being. We've done a rejection sensitivity show. And just very recently, I highly recommend that. That causes a ton of opting out or perfection paralysis. So growth mindset is we all make mistakes. We can learn from them. One of the best ways to get this going is to pull up stories of success stories that started out as failures. I mean, Post-it notes were made by accident. Penicillin. I've given a lot of examples in the past. There are stories about Michael Jordan, different singers, people, if your kids are into certain type of music or sports. There are also stories about falling short, and they start realizing how that was getting them one step closer to the goal. But the power of yet, there's an actual book called that. Mm-hmm. And there's also another book called Y is for Yet, where when they know that they are not going to be demolished for making a mistake, it's okay. As long as you learn from your mistakes, we grow. Mistakes are cool. Mm-hmm. They're going to go for it. So I learned from my mistake. Next time I will. So they're talk about what they learned. And now I have a dress rehearsal for next time so I don't repeat the same error. And once I go through this, you don't think genuine apologies are coming, and it's all sincere instead of forced.
I love that so much. That slide needs to be in every classroom.
Yes, I agree. It's just like we want to teach genuine gratitude and not just saying the words thank you. You know, there are so many things that are not just super obvious, but once you hear them, they're like, oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So accountability does not mean forced apologies. It means relationship repair. And it also means I'm in charge of my actions. I'm responsible for my mistakes. We've talked about how now they're going to be okay with that growth mindset. And by the way, another part of growth mindset is praising process, perseverance, grit, character traits, not just waiting for the end result. Catch your kids being good. We all know that intuitively, but we also have this responsibility as teachers, as parents, to train and instruct kids. So the natural inclination is they hear more negatives than positives when they're struggling. Don't do this. Stop doing that. Quit doing this. We want to use pro-social terms, what we do want them to do. You know, touch gently, speak softly, instead of what we do not want them to do. Otherwise, we're just sort of instilling the wrong words in their brain. But catch them being good. You were more patient this time, even if in the end they kind of lost patience, but it took longer to get there. They don't feel like they're digging out of a hole that they will never get back to level earth. But I'm in charge of my actions. How many of you have kids who seek control, often in inappropriate ways? Mm-hmm. Here is a way they can feel in charge in an appropriate way. Accountability is a superpower. It helps you be in charge of your life. Talking to teens, when you grow in accountability, you get more independence. What is in it for me? We've got to speak their language. If I don't know what stirs my soul, I do things just because I have to avoid a punishment, to get a reward. We always want to be connecting why something matters to what it is we're asking them to do, how it connects to their goals, their dreams, their hobbies. That grows motivation. Okay. I am in control of my life. It does not mean you don't allow your child to explain what happened. Again, that would be taking away their voice. They do explain what happened while taking responsibility, not but statements. I pushed him, but he pushed me yesterday. Doesn't matter. Anything after the but is an excuse.
Yeah.
We want to use I statements. I am feeling this way, not you made me feel this way. I did a show about boundaries and talking about the difference between we want to be assertive without it being aggressive. Assertive is I care about what is best for everyone involved. Aggressive is all about me. So I noticed that you kind of ignored me at lunch because you're hanging around somebody you think is really cool. I feel this way. Would you consider blah, blah, blah? I'm not saying you were being rude. You were dismissing me. You were being selfish because you want to feel important. No, I feel this way. I was wondering, da, da, da. Now I am not accusing. That takes people off the defensive. I care about our friendship. Does this work for you? Mutually beneficial. It's honesty. I broke that. And so, and kids need to know that there is some sort of, they need to feel, even if they do something pretty horrific, that is definitely going to require some sort of consequence. Natural consequences usually are the best because there's a layer of removal between teacher or parent and child. That is the natural consequence. I told you not to run the house. You did. You knocked over the lamp. You're going to save up allowance. You're going to pay for half of this. I mean, Depends on the price of the lamp. That is a natural consequence. If I ground you, there is not a direct correlation between that punishment and what happened. So natural consequences are good, but there still needs to be praise for the honesty involved.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be so hard. You're mad. You've got something you really need to correct. What's the positive in there also?
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, all right. That rounds it out, I believe.
Wonderful. This was so informative, and I've taken a lot of tips from you that I'm going to use with my own children, because I see, especially the apologies, making them say, I'm sorry. So I really enjoyed that presentation. It was wonderful. So thank you for joining our show today. Here is all the contact information for Brain Balance, and to be able to get a hold of Heather. We enjoyed the show today, and I was so excited to be here. I absolutely enjoyed every minute.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure having you here, and especially bringing in your background too. And I will be back Thursday at 1:05 with Dr. Brian for our next show. But follow me at The Hidden Churn on Instagram or Facebook, as well as these 3 pages. But thank you so much for sharing your time. Hey, Tony, it's good to see you. He's awesome. All right, y'all. Have a great week.
Have a good week. Bye.
Bye.